welcome to the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect. My name is Jared Mello. Today we're going to go over 4 signs of a covert narcissist. Most people are able to detect the grandiose narcissist, but the covert narcissist is much more difficult to detect, often because sometimes the signs can take a lot longer to display themselves. And the covert narcissist, they have all the same base traits as the other kinds of narcissists, they just display themselves in a different way. The number 1 sign of a covert narcissist is they will be so nice to you, almost too nice. And this will happen in the beginning when they're first meeting you, whether it's the love bombing phase or something else. And what you'll notice is, whatever you want, they'll be more than happy to help you. If you need something, they're there to do it for you. And if you want someone to listen, they're there to listen. And the only time this may crack is if you don't give them what they want. And if you don't give them what they want during this phase, you might notice a little passive aggressiveness, but we're going to get to that in another of the signs here. But the too nice sign, where it almost seems too good to be true, how is this person being so nice? How is this person doing everything that I would like them to do? I'm not even asking, even in some cases. They're just offering to do all of this stuff. That's something to pay attention to. And part of it is they are giving with strings attached. And that's where the passive aggressiveness part comes in. But it's subtle. It's certainly subtle, this part, but it's something to pay attention to. The second sign of a covert narcissist is they were the victim in all of their past relationships. And there's always some sort of story of woe where maybe they were cheated on or maybe their ex was crazy or whatever it was, but they paint themselves as the perfect partner and every one of their exes was the perpetrator. They were the person giving out all sorts of bad behavior and mistreatment, and the covert narcissist, they were innocent. They come out smelling like roses. But in all of these cases, they are the person that's the victim, and what you'll notice is often they have rewritten history a little bit. And if you were to talk to those exes about their relationship with them, you would get a completely different story. But often, those exes are nowhere to be found, and even so, if you were to find them, you might not even believe them anyway. Because if the covert narcissist love bombing has gotten to you, you're on their team at this point, and you're not going to believe what other people have to say about it. And this is why I say to people also, it's not really much use to warn people about the narcissistic person specifically, because often they have to learn for themselves. They have to learn the hard way, especially once the love bombing has taken hold a little bit. Now, once they do though, once the love bombing has taken hold, maybe they'll find a channel like this or one of the others and they'll begin to see it. But until that point, you can't force this message on people more than likely. Number 3, the third sign of a covert narcissist is they are a completely different person in public than they are behind closed doors. Often, the covert narcissist wants to appear like the perfect partner, the most generous person. They are the person that's going to be charitable and always helping people out, looking like the great, good-hearted person. And that's exactly how they want to display themselves to the world. Image is very important to them. But behind closed doors, it can be a completely different story. And I interviewed Doug Bugle the other day, and he was married to a covert narcissist, and that was his story. She was a completely different person in public than she was behind closed doors. And the covert narcissist will be that pleasant, happy person, very helpful in public, but then once they're home, then all of a sudden they can be critical, devaluing, dismissive, abusive, all sorts of things. But if you didn't know, you just wouldn't find out. You wouldn't know about that unless you were living with them too. And this is pretty crazy making for the people they live with, because it makes them feel a little more alone with it. Because if they were to mention it to other people that know them, they would say, oh, but they're so awesome. They're so helpful. You're so lucky to have a partner or a parent like that. But little do they know, it's a completely different story behind closed doors. And this makes the people that are experiencing their mistreatment feel more isolated and alone. And it's a sad state of affairs. And finally, the fourth sign of a covert narcissist is passive aggressiveness. The number one passive aggressive trait, if you really make them upset, they will use the silent treatment. And not to be confused with taking a break from a conversation, and not to be confused with going no contact. I know a lot of people try to contort and conflate those three things, but the silent treatment is used to punish or to control other people. No contact is an act of self-love for ourselves or as a boundary. Taking a break from a conversation is something people do because it's a mature thing to do, and rather than say something they might regret, they decide to take a step back, regroup, gather themselves, and then come at the conversation again in a more emotionally controlled and healthy way. Nothing wrong with those things. The silent treatment's a little different. The silent treatment is passive-aggressive, and the silent treatment is used to punish or control others. And if you do something the covert narcissist doesn't like, they will punish you with the silent treatment. And you might not hear from them for days to weeks at a time, but that's what they like to do. And that's not the only form of passive aggressiveness that they'll use. They'll like to do snide remarks. Oh, you can't get anything right. Oh, your thoughts and opinions are so silly or ridiculous. But they like throwing these little subtle jabs. And again, if you circle back to number one, when they're so nice during love bombing, pay attention when they don't get their way. If they don't get their way, or you don't do something that they want you to do, pay attention to that. Pay attention to if there's any sort of passive-aggressive behavior in there, because that would indicate there is some strings attached in the good things that they do. And they may also call this a covert contract, where people will do good things for another person. They'll give them all sorts of love and attention and admiration, but it's with the unspoken expectation that you will behave a certain way in return. They call that a covert contract, and it's subtly manipulative, and it's certainly something to watch out for. But all of these steps here, whether it's the love bombing and being so nice, playing the victim, being a different person in public than they are in private, and the passive aggressiveness, they can all be manipulation tactics, specifically the silent treatment as well. But either way, all of these things are things to pay attention to. And it's subtle, and sometimes it takes a long time for these to really display themselves, and that makes it even more tricky. And overall, when it comes to partners that will mistreat others, it's very rarely people that you think would mistreat others. They usually do seem like a pleasant, kind-hearted person. But again, no one in most cases is going to act like the person that's going to mistreat and abuse others in public. But behind closed doors, it can often be a completely different story. And that's something to pay attention to. And again, even in normal relationships, there may be a little bit of that kind of behavior where they're a little different behind closed doors, but it's not going to be as night and day as it will be with the covert narcissist. To recap here, the 4 signs of a covert narcissist. Number 1, they'll be so nice and so helpful. And it might seem like they're being too nice and too helpful. And it might seem too good to be true. But that is something to pay attention to. And if you don't act the way they want you to act, pay attention to what happens then. See if they get a little passive-aggressive. Number 2, they will play the victim, and they will be the victim of all of their past relationships or other kinds of scenarios, but they have a massive victim card to play. Number 3, they will be a completely different person behind closed doors than they will be in public. That is crazy making for the people that live with them because it makes them feel more isolated and alone. And then number 4, they will be the people that are going to be passive-aggressive. And the covert narcissist loves to use the silent treatment, and that's to punish and to control other kinds of people that act in a way the covert narcissist doesn't like. Those are the 4 signs to look out for when it comes to a covert narcissist. If you got this far, please remember to subscribe to the channel here, like the video if you liked it, and share this video with someone else that you think might benefit. Maybe they're with a covert narcissist and you think so, because you've been learning about narcissism, etc., but maybe they're not aware. Maybe this video can help them. And other signs, because there's more signs of covert narcissists too, but these are just 4 I wanted to address in the video here. Comment below any other kinds of signs you might see. I know there's a couple others that I left out purposefully, but comment below signs that you have seen. And if you want a more in-depth video on this, watch my interview with Doug Bugle. He is the author of Third Time Was Not a Charm, and it chronicles his experience with a covert narcissist. He was married to one for over 10 years, and we get really into the nitty-gritty of what went down, and that's a more in-depth video on this very topic. But with that, thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.